And good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's session about RMS Insurance. We're talking about XCover and RMS Cloud and a fantastic partnership that we've entered in with Cover Genius. I'm joined today by Isabel. Good morning, Isabel. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. All right, today we're going to be taking you through just a brief introduction to a new product that RMS is launching called RMS Insurance. And Isabel's going to be taking you through a demonstration of how parkies can simplify the management of their insurance for annual customers. So if we can move over to the next slide. Excellent. So introductions, as I've said, we're delighted to be partnered with Cover Genius. They are the leaders in InsurTech for embedded insurance, and they've got a fantastic network of customers working with some of the largest digital companies, and we're delighted that they've partnered with RMS. Now, talking about RMS Insurance, the partnership integrates XCover, Cover Genius's award-winning global distribution platform, into RMS Cloud's property management system. And what this enables parkies to do is seamlessly offer mandated liability and natural disaster coverage in their park. So the benefits are that you will be able to save time, and time is money. You'll be able to keep track of everything, who's insured, how much, when they've paid, and when renewals are due. And I know that's an important point that people have to manage every day and every week. There's an easy claims management process if it's an insurable event and that was to take place. And most importantly, it keeps your parks, your guests, and your team safe and gives you peace of mind. So we'll just run through the contents of today's call. So we've been through the introduction. We're going to talk shortly about RMS Insurance as a product, and then we'll be taking you through a demonstration of how the product is activated, operated within the RMS 9+ application, and how billing works. Some important information on do's and don'ts, and then a whole range of Q&A and next steps that we'll be covering off. Now, if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. We can ask that live on the call, or otherwise drop a note into the chat, and we will pick that up and ask as we progress.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter. So hello, everyone. My name is Isabel. I work for Cover Genius, as Peter mentioned. So we're super excited to be launching this product. It's been a long time in the works. We've worked with parkies to be able to offer a solution that solves the insurance problems that you're facing today. So without further ado, I'll just do a quick introduction of XCover. So look, XCover, we've been around for about 8 years. We started initially in the car rental vertical, but then we've expanded into all sorts of insurance verticals. So logistics, retail, prop tech. We have very good claims capability. So we have one of the highest NPSs in the industry globally, 65+, which is quite an achievement in terms of insurance. We serve more than 3 million customers a year. And like Peter mentioned, we partner with some of the biggest digital companies in the world. So we're available at Amazon, Wayfair. We partner with flagship airline carriers like Iceland Air. So very, very excited to be able to enter a partnership with RMS and to be able to offer this solution. Now, it's great that I say all of that stuff about XCover and how that's working. But it's not just me saying it. There is some awards that we've won in different spaces that kind of prove that the work that we're doing is good. So that's good. So moving on to RMS Insurance. Like I said, what we're trying to do here is come up with what we've tried to do over the last year. What we've developed is come up with a solution that solves the insurance problem that we know parkies are facing. And we worked with parkies on doing this. We had conversations with multiple parkies to design the solution. And what we've come up with is an easy-to-use system that allows you to issue insurance for your weekenders, annuals, however you refer to them, in a very seamless way. Doesn't let me go to the next slide. And so what the RMS Insurance does is it allows you as a parkie to issue insurance to your annuals basically with a click of a button. And I'll be running through the demo on how that actually works. So what we wanted was to give parkies full control over that insurance process. You can enable the insurance, you can make changes to the coverage, It gives you an easy way to access all of the certificates, which we know was a very big pain point in the current landscape. We've also done significant research to make sure that the cover that we are offering animals or weekenders meets the mandatory liability requirement. So it's a comprehensive coverage. It will cover contents of the home. It covers the caravan as well as the annex. It protects in case of natural events, floods, fires, storms. So there's significant kind of catastrophe coverage there. And really importantly, it covers up to 20 million of liability protection. This is a really, really important point, because when we were doing the research, we note that this is just required first under local laws, but more importantly for parkies, it's actually normally a requirement for parkies to be able to obtain their own holiday park insurance, or to be able to claim on that existing holiday park insurance. So this makes sure that that liability requirement is covered.
Great. Can I just ask a quick question there, if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah.
Do parkies need to use RMS insurance, or can they go elsewhere?
That's a great question, Peter. So we've designed the solution in a way that, yes, animals can get coverage from anywhere, and it still makes it easier for parkies to manage that insurance. So essentially, if your animal decides to go with, let's just say QB as an example, you can still upload that QB certificate onto the RMS Insurance dashboard so that you have all of those certificates stored in one place.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's incredibly convenient.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to make sure that the solution wasn't just exclusive to RMS Insurance. Obviously, there are some benefits of using RMS Insurance over other policies, but yeah, you can manage any type of policy. You can store any certificate in the dashboard so that you have one centralized place to manage that, rather than the parkies we spoke to literally told us, yeah, look, like we have a filing cabinet with old certificates. So we wanted to give you guys a more convenient way of managing that.
Fantastic.
Great. So just taking a step back, we'll actually be sending probably a condensed version of this presentation for you to access. There's some hyperlinks here with more information. So there's a leaflet that's available here, as you can see in the link. Great. So that talks about, like, we've now covered essentially how this works for parkies, but how does it actually work for your caravan owners, your animals? We also wanted to make sure that, you know, we're not only giving you the flexibility to enable, disable, modify insurance as you see fit, but we also need to make sure that this is a protection that's relevant for your animals. So as I mentioned, it covers the required liability, comprehensive coverage for their property and contents. Something that is really, really important with this type of insurance is it automatically renews. So essentially what happens is a month out from a policy having to renew, it's a yearly policy. So a month out from having to renew, we will get in contact directly with your animals and tell them that the renewal is coming up, that they need to essentially pay you, and we'll walk through how that billing works. But it's really important that it renews automatically, again, because of the collection of certificates. So because the policy renews automatically, we can make sure that next year you don't have to go around and collect the certificates. They're actually just going to be automatically added to your RMS dashboard. We've also included a benefit of up to 60 days free. This essentially means that once you enable the policy for the animal, they have 60 days to pay you. So we did this for two reasons. One, we wanted to make sure that you have enough time to actually collect that payment for animals, but also we realized that with most existing insurers, if you cancel a policy, you can get a prorated refund. So adding this 60 days essentially means that the sooner they pay you, the more free days they get. They can get up to 14 months of coverage for the price of 12. Something that's super important and paramount for us is the claims experience. So in case of an emergency or to make a claim, they just kickstart the process at xcover.com/claim. We have an extensive repair network, so we can be there in case of a natural disaster event. And if it's something that's not related to an emergency, they can do all of that process online from a phone, a laptop, tablet, whatever they have access to. There's another leaflet linked out from here with more information for your animals. So this is kind of a animal-facing leaflet that you can share that essentially gives them the basic information about how this insurance works for them.
Great. I've actually got 2 questions that have come through, if you wouldn't mind. So the first was, how can annuals make changes to their policy?
Yeah, so because we wanted to make sure that we were giving parkies the control over this, the changes need to be made essentially by the parkie. So the animal, if they log in and try to make a change directly on xcover.com, we'll tell them there that they need to contact their parkie. So they'll come to you and you can make the changes from the RMS dashboard.
Great, thank you. And the second question was, how's the claims process managed?
Yeah, so we have a team of claims assessors. So essentially what happens is the animal, if they need to make a claim, they would go to xcover.com/claim. There's a first notice of loss form, which is very, very simple to fill out. The reason why it's so simple to fill out is because we leverage all the existing data that we have from those customers. So there's no need to re-key in any of the information. Then it gets assessed. 95% of claims that we process get assessed and paid out within 3 days. If there is a payout, we pay via XPay, which is our payments processing system. Essentially, if a claim is approved, the animal would get an email saying, hey, your claim is approved. Please put in your bank details, and that essentially gets paid out instantly, which is a really, really convenient way for animals to be able to claim. And in case of emergency, there's a phone number that they can call to get emergency assistance.
Great. So it sounds like a really simple way in which they can manage that themselves. Excellent.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's paramount for us to be able to offer that seamless claims experience, not just because it's the right thing to do when you're selling an insurance product, but also to make sure that, you know, our relationship with our partners, customers, and I mean, Parky's customers in this case remains in very good terms.
Excellent.
Great. So moving on, I'm going to do a live demo of how it works. So let me just switch screen to that. Awesome. Okay. So actually, let me take a step back here. So there's a link in this deck on how to actually activate that. I unfortunately can't show you that because I have already activated it, and so I can't deactivate it and take you back through those steps. But there is a link, so we'll send the video out on how to activate that. Essentially, you go to the module market, you activate RMS Insurance. There's a number of screens that you have to go through just to make sure that all the billing is set up correctly. But then once you have activated that, RMS Insurance will sit under Utilities. So if I click on RMS Insurance, it brings me to this dashboard. Now on this dashboard, we have multiple different filters of where animals are sitting in the process. So I'll take you through each one of those. First, we have animals with no policy. So once you activate, all your animals are going to fall into this category. So you would select any number of them. You can select all of them by clicking here. And you can say, get a quote. So if I click here, I can confirm that I want to proceed. That generates a quote for that animal. Now, you'll see that there's a pending quote and a quote state here. Pending quote, there is a limited number of properties that we don't have insurance support for yet, but that's coming very shortly. So that's why it's a pending quote. Essentially, as soon as that becomes available, it's going to land in the quote. Now, at quote stage, I can see some information here on that quote. So I can see the cover amount, It defaults to $30,000 cover for caravan and annex and $1,000 for contents. Modification capabilities are going to be released shortly, and I can see the policy wording for this particular record. So if I click on that, this is what the policy wording for the animal looks like. So you can get more information of what's covered by looking at this, or you can share the link if someone asks to see the policy wording for that quote. Now, you'll also notice that it has a due date. Like I mentioned, there's a 60-day free period of coverage. And if a policy doesn't get, and we'll cover this more in detail in the billing section, but if a policy doesn't get activated within 60 days, essentially what happens is it's automatically canceled. So we ensure that parties are not being charged for policies that they haven't received payment for, essentially. Now, once I have the quote stage, again, I can select any single record that I want from this page, or I can select all of them by clicking here. So I'm going to just select one of them, and I'm going to say, yeah, okay, I want to enable the insurance. So if I click here, it gives me some more information about the policy. It tells me what the premium is for the year and that I have to collect payment. So I would hit confirm, and that would now land in the pending payment page. So in this pending payment page, there's a little bit more information. It's the same information as we saw before, but you can also access the certificate of insurance. So that will download as a PDF. Let me open that so you can see what it looks like. So this is a certificate of insurance for that particular animal within the dashboard. It has the information about what's covered, what the premium was, the coverage dates, and some information about the policyholder as well. So something that was really important for us when we were designing the solution was making sure that parties aren't charged for policies that they don't receive payment for. So that's why we have this pending payment step. And when I want to move someone, when I've collected payment from someone and I want to move them to covered, all I need to do is I need to create a receipt against that record. So I would click on their account number, and then I can create a receipt. So let's say that this person paid me the full amount in cash. So I'm going to say $590.99. I would process that receipt. And that record is now disappeared from pending payment and landed into covered. So in the covered page, you have all the records that you have activated the insurance for. You still have all the certificates here in one place. If someone decides not to go with RMS Insurance and bring their own policy, you can upload their other certificate to this field. So that's what I was mentioning before of having all the certificates within one place. And you can also add nods here. Like, for example, if someone tells you, well, I have an existing policy, I don't want to add this now, but my policy is expiring in 2 months. So at that point, maybe I want to go with RMS Insurance. You can add a note to mention that so you can keep track of where things are at. Cancellations work very, very, very similarly. So I would select all records or one record. Hopefully for cancellations, it's just the one. And so if someone's leaving the property permanently, you can cancel their policy. If someone says, I don't want this policy, I want to bring my own policy, that's perfectly fine. So you'd select the record and hit up here where it says cancel. It tells you what the refund for that weekender is. So refunds are prorated. You can get a refund there. Your animals can get a refund for any unused days. So you would essentially refund the customer, and then RMS would refund you the same amount in the next billing cycle, which again we'll cover in a bit more detail. So I would say confirm, and that record would now follow. Oh, sorry, I think that's an issue with the original setup that I did. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay. Well, that's an issue with the original setup that I did. But once you action that, the policy would fall under canceled. And here under canceled, again, you have the record for the premium that was canceled. You can click to see the account. So in this case, as an example, the policy was canceled after a few days had already been used. So you can see the record of what was refunded here. Any questions on this demo?
Nothing come through. I think you're doing a fantastic job. You've covered all the important points, and it's really exciting to see. Obviously, that dashboard makes it incredibly simple to manage who's covered, who's pending payment, what quotes are outstanding, so you can keep track of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else that's important that I wanted to call out here is we're working on the possibility to re-quote. So even if someone has said, no, I want my own policy, potentially they want it in the future. So we'll be there's going to be a way for you to grab any of these canceled policies and essentially re-quote so that you can activate in the future.
Fantastic.
Great. So one more thing that I wanted to call out here is this makes it really simple, because not only are you managing everything through here, but we take care of all the communications to the customer. So once you activate a policy, they will get a confirmation email with instructions on how to pay you. The certificate of insurance is going to be attached. They can access their policy wording. So all of those communications get managed by us. So it should be super simple for animals to understand what's going on.
Fantastic.
So I'll move on to the billing. So again, what we've tried to do is really simplify the way that insurance has worked so far. So the way the billing works is you actually pay RMS monthly for active policies. So when you're setting up RMS insurance, you'd select your monthly cadence, and put simply, the amount that you've charged, refunded your weekenders, is paid back to RMS within that monthly chosen cycle. Sorry that I'm looking this way. I have the Hangout link open on this screen, and so I'm trying to look at everyone. So how does billing work for parkies? RMS invoices you for policies that you've received payment for. Like we saw in the demo, once you've created a receipt against that policy, that's when we include that to be invoiced within the next cycle. So if you haven't created an invoice against that policy, if you haven't received the payment from the animal, that policy does not get included in the pay cycle. Automatic cancellation for unpaid policies. So we've talked about the 60-day benefit. If your animal doesn't pay you within those 60 days, the policy automatically gets canceled, again, to ensure that parkies aren't charged for policies which they haven't received payment for. Refunds and cancellations. The amount that we invoice you in your monthly chosen pay cycle is the net of new policies that have commenced in that period, minus any refunds that you've provided for unused days or canceled policies. With the upgrade capabilities, we're also working on a downgrade capability. So essentially the coverage starts at a certain point, but maybe someone has a caravan that is less than $30,000 and they want to insure it for less. If there is a refund due for that policy, it will be picked up in the next monthly cycle as well. So we've tried to keep this billing process very simple. I'm not sure if there's questions around this. I'll take you through how it works for your animals as well. I'm going to take that as a no. Great. So for animals, how does it actually work? They get 60 days to pay you, and if they pay you within the first day, they get up to 60 days free. So essentially, once you enable the insurance, as I mentioned, we take care of all the communications. They would get an email to mention how to pay for the insurance. Their certificate is going to be attached. And if they follow these payment instructions, they just pay you and RMS would bill you. Now, the email communications that we have also make it really clear that they can cancel at any time and get a full refund for unused days, which is something that's important for animals to understand. So what we wanted to do here is leverage the existing relationship that you have with your animals. So you can take payment and process refunds. The amount will always be indicated in the RMS Insurance dashboard. However, you're currently collecting payment for the park fees, the yearly park fees. When we enable the coverage for the first time, the animal gets an instruction to pay you. And if they pay, let's say that you activate that today, if they pay you today, they're actually getting 14 months for the price of 12. If they pay 60 days from today, when you've activated it, they would get 12 months for the price of 12. If they don't pay you within 60 days, policy gets automatically canceled and no one gets charged. Again, with refunds or cancellations, we want to make sure that parkies have that capability to perform all of these actions. So if they try to cancel directly on XCover.com, we'll tell them to go straight to their parkie. So you would go cancel the policy on the RMS Insurance dashboard, refund the customer, you get refunded by RMS in the next monthly cycle. So that covers off the billing portion. Again, we've tried to keep it incredibly simple. All the amounts are essentially netted off. You will never be charged for policies that you haven't received payment for, that you haven't created that receipt against. And I'll be moving on to insurance do's and don'ts, which is gonna be fun. Okay, so moving on to insurance do's and don'ts. Obviously, insurance is a heavily regulated industry. So there are certain things that we can and can't do when talking to our animals about RMS insurance. So we can refer the customers to their documentation. You saw how easy it is to access that documentation from the RMS Insurance dashboard. So you can download certificates, you can view the policy wording, so you can refer them to that documentation. You can provide any of the factual information stated in the policy wording. So if someone says what's included, you can read out of the inclusions list on the policy wording. And we can provide general statements when speaking to customers. There's some examples of that in the next slide, so I'll go through some of those. In terms of the don'ts, because of the nature of insurance, we can't provide personal advice on insurance to customers, and we can't provide claims information. So claims are all managed to XCover.com. We contact your animal directly for any kind of evidence or claims information that we require. As I mentioned, it's a very straightforward process. Within that first notice of loss form, the animal can actually tell us how they prefer to be contacted, and we'll contact them in that way. So some scenarios. Should I take out the insurance? Again, we can't really provide personal advice. So we can say something along the lines of, well, I can't provide you with personal insurance advice, but I can tell you that many people within the park are buying this insurance to help reduce their financial risk. And if they want more information, we can say, well, it includes X, Y, Z from the policy wording. The policy wording is always sitting in the RMS Insurance dashboard, so very easy to access that. If someone asks you what's happening with my claim, it's perfectly fine to say, well, the claims are handled directly by XCover. So if you want a current status update of your claim, just get in touch with them by replying to any of the claims emails that they have sent you. There's also a help center for animals, so they can go to xcover.com/help. This is sent to them in the confirmation email, so they have access to this help center. And there's information on how to make a claim, on the policy, how it works, how the billing works. It's all explained to animals within that help center. If someone asks you what the insurance limits are, you can just check the certificate of insurance or the policy wording and read the limits from there. But you can also just refer them to their documentation. So they get an account created for each policy that gets generated. So they can just log in, and from there they can view all the relevant policy documentation that has their personal insurance details.
Nice. I think that best practice guide, 2 pages over, really distills quite simply what you can and can't do and the best way to approach it with customers. That's and with your annuals. That's great.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, Peter will be sending out a copy of this deck, so you'll always have access to this.
Fantastic.
Great. So now we've covered quite a bit of ground in terms of how it works. But we also wanted to give you this slide, which really encompasses all, I guess, it's the single source of truth for where you can find information. So there's some really useful links here that I'll show you. There's a help center for RMS Insurance. So there's some FAQs here on how that program works. There's an article specifically on how to activate the RMS Insurance that you can refer to. And it's basically a step-by-step guide on how to do that. There is a guide for operators. That's the leaflet that we linked out before as well. So let me, that opened in the wrong screen. So this is what the operator's guide looks like. It has basic information about the insurance. There's a video on RMS's YouTube channel on how to activate, which is that part that I had to skip through at the beginning. And there is a landing page with a bunch of FAQs that we've drafted answers for. If there are any questions that are not covered under this, there's a process for us to add them. So please let us know.
Fantastic. I might just recap on that. Any parkie that's looking to activate RMS Insurance, you simply need to go to the module market inside RMS. So if you look on the hamburger menu towards the left-hand side at the bottom, you'll find the module market. Now, if you can't see the module market or you're unable to activate it, it's likely that you need to get your primary system or system administrator. So the person that's registered inside RMS to have the authority to be able to activate modules, go in and activate the module and then go through the process. But as always, Dave Jones has put together a fantastic video, which is on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. It'll take you through the process step by step. And if after looking at that, you're still having problems, don't hesitate to reach out to the RMS sales team, and they'd be delighted to help you through as well.
Thanks, Peter. That's super helpful. So there's also some information that you can provide to your animals. Like I said, you can refer them back to your XCover account. There's the XCover Help Center that I mentioned just before.
Got a question there from Barb. Barb, thank you for that question. She said that she's missed the first 5 minutes. What's the cost to RMS? There is no cost to RMS. You simply activate the module and then start issuing policies out to your annuals as you see fit. Now, the cost of the policy, as was outlined in the billing screen, will be recovered from RMS. So effectively, you're covering the cost by accepting it from the annual and then paying RMS, who then in turn settle that with XCover.
Thanks. That's a great question. So here's the help center, like I mentioned before, for your animals. So there's a bunch of FAQs on how do I pay my premium and who to? How do I purchase XCover protection? What am I covered for? Why have I been signed up? How do I request a price beat, which is a feature that is coming shortly and we'll cover in a probably subsequent webinar. So there's that help center. There's information that the animals can refer to in the confirmation email that they get from XCover. There's another leaflet that's has information for animals, so this can be distributed to your animals as well. XCover, we're Sydney-based. I'm sitting in Manly right now. It's pretty cold. Yeah, we're Sydney-based, but we have representatives in other places in Australia, and we have offices all over the globe. So New York, Singapore, Seoul, you name it. Great. And lastly, the XCover account, like I mentioned, an account gets generated for each animal when you enable the insurance for them. And from here, they can access all their policy documentation or make a claim. So this is the reference point of what you can refer your animals to when they're seeking for more information. And you have all those policy documents accessible. So many RMS tabs open now. So you have all those policy documents accessible from the RMS dashboard as well. So certificates here, policy wordings here. Awesome. And now we have a few key questions that we wanted to run through, but really I want to open it up and see if anyone has any questions around how any of this works before we go through kind of the questions that we've drafted. I'm keen to hear what the actual questions that you may have are. That's great feedback. Thank you so much, Barb.
Are there any other questions from anyone on the call? Feel free to drop them in the chat window, or otherwise you can take yourself up on mute and ask the question live. I think you've done such a fantastic job, Isabel, that there's very few questions to ask. So we'll move on to some of those pre-prepared questions.
That's great to hear. Okay, so we've covered most of this. How does RMS insurance work? You can opt in your annuals for RMS insurance. You can opt them all in at the same time, or you can opt in individual annuals. We take care of the communications to them. You can do access all their certificates of insurance, so you know that they're covered. You can follow the step-to-step guide to add RMS insurance onto your RMS account. You're the point of contact for animals about their protection. Again, we want to give you the power to control the insurance and how it works in your park. You're invoiced by RMS for coverage, but you've already received those funds from the animal themselves. You can modify protection from the insurance dashboard. We'll do a short demo video on how to do that, and it will be uploaded to probably YouTube, the RMS YouTube channel. But we'll also be doing some further webinars on some of these functionalities that are being built into it at the moment. I've included a link to the full list of FAQs down here. But some other questions: what are the selling points for my animals? Well, they get up to 60 days free protection. It covers liability for third-party damages and injuries, which is mandatory in most states. It covers accidental damage for their caravan, annex, contents. Theft, vandalism, or damage are also covered. And very importantly, especially over the last few years, natural disaster protection. So we cover floods, fire, hail, wind, storm. They can log into their account to view the specific policy wording or find out more about their coverage. How does RMS insurance premium payment work? I think I'm going to skip through that because you've heard me go through that piece quite a few times now. How do I access the certificates? They're stored in the RMS dashboard. If you have an animal that wants to bring their own policy and they don't want to use RMS insurance, you can still store that certificate within that dashboard so you have one place where all of those certificates are stored. Hopefully that makes it easier than the filing cabinet that Parky was referring to when we initially spoke. If they have an insurance claim, they can log into their XCover account, make a claim from there. There's an emergency phone number that provides them assistance in case of emergency. Most of the claims are processed within 3 days, 95% of them. We do instant payments for animals. If your animal has questions about the protection, how can you help? There's all those resources that we linked on that previous slide, and they can also go to XCover Help Center, where we have drafted answers to a lot of the commonly asked questions. So now on to the next steps. I think you mentioned some of these already, Peter, but there's the guide on how to familiarize yourself how it works. You can activate RMS insurance from the module market. Like Peter mentioned, if you don't see that option there, you need to go to your
primary system administrator or system administrator.
System administrator. There's instructions on how to make a quote. That's the demo that I took you through. How to enable a quote once you confirm that that's fine. And we'll be uploading a recording of this session on YouTube in case you want to go through it again. If there are any questions, RMS is there to help, and we're here to help as well. And I think that's all we had for today. So
fantastic. We've got a question from Daryl.
Yeah, just the cost to the annuals. We haven't sort of covered that. I did see in there that it was $590.99, but was that just a test figure or what?
Yeah, so that actually depends on a number of factors, obviously. So that cost will be shown on the RMS Insurance dashboard, but it varies depending on like where the property is, what the coverage amount that we're quoting for is. So as I mentioned, there's upgrade options. It starts at $30,000, but if someone has a caravan that's more than that, they can upgrade that coverage. So that premium is going to depend on all of those factors, Daryl, and it does vary quite a bit. I think it starts at around 300 and it goes all the way up to, I think, around 700. But RMS, the insurance dashboard, will actually tell you what the premium due is for that animal.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks, Daryl. No problems. Are there any other questions before we wrap up? All done. Isabel, thank you so much. That was fantastic to be able to see the benefits and how easy it is to manage insurance for annuals inside the RMS application. We are incredibly excited to be partnering with you guys, and we'll look forward to bringing this product and service to many of the RMS customers. If you've got any questions for Isabel or myself or anyone from the teams, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and we'd be delighted to assist.
Yeah, right back at you, Peter. It was great to be able to talk you through some of the benefits of RMS insurance, and thank you so much, everyone, for your time.
Thanks, everybody.